The ridge erupted. Dirt spat into the air. The blast punched through the valley and left his ears ringing. Sergeant Cole's heart hit the mud behind a broken stone wall and dragged Specialist Lena Perez down with him. Bullets snapped over the wall and chewed the ridge face. Dust hung in a choking sheet. The radio on Cole's vest hissed and died. "Contact right," Perez yelled. Her voice sounded distant. Cole only caught half of it. He tasted grit. The wall shook again under a burst. They had walked straight into it. Narrow sheep trail. Switchbacks. Terraced fields below. A collapsed village ahead. The patrol had spaced out 10 meters between bodies, careful and quiet. Then the first mortar fell, and the hill woke up. Cole checked his rifle. Chambered. He leaned out. A muzzle flashed from a rock shelf above a torn apricot tree. He tapped 2 shots. The flash died. Another team opened up from the far terrace and pinned their rear element. Tracers crossed like straight lines of heat. A goat bolted and tumbled down the slope, legs kicking. "Smith," Cole called. No answer. He tried again. "Jax. Report." Private Jackson Smith answered with a cough. "Pinned at the bend. Doc is with Kowalski. Bleeding bad." Cole looked left. The trail curled under a cliff face with no cover. The bend sat in a perfect L, classic kill zone. He saw a boot, then a hand scraping for purchase. He saw the smear of blood. Perez tapped his shoulder. 2 shooters in the tower. Top of the village. 3rd window. She pushed a cracked pair of binos into his hands. Through the glass, a dark square framed movement. A figure stepped back. Another leaned in with a tube on his shoulder. Cole knew that shape. "RPG." He swore, then keyed his throat mic out of habit. Nothing. He switched to hand signals. Perez nodded. They both leaned, fired short bursts, then ducked as chips of stone jumped in their faces. The RPG barked. The warhead streaked low and hit the trail behind them. The concussion rolled them both. Cole felt heat on his neck. He blinked through gray fog and counted fingers. "All there." "Flank left," Perez mouthed. She pointed toward a goat path that cut below a terrace wall. Tight. Exposed. But it led to the bend where Jax and Doc were trapped. Cole checked the slope again. A glint moved on the far ridge. Scope. Another shooter. He could not stay. Cole scraped forward, keeping his chest to the dirt. Perez covered, firing quick, controlled bursts. The path crawled under his elbows and shredded his sleeves. He counted breaths. He tasted iron. He crawled into a nest of thorn and waited for the return fire to shift. It did. He rolled out and sprinted. Gravel slid under his boots. He hit the bend and crashed behind a knee-high berm. Jax lay on his side, gasping. A strip of tourniquet bit into his thigh. Blood soaked the fabric below it. Doc Patel kept pressure with both hands, face set and pale. Kowalski lay farther up, eyes glazed, chest rising shallow and fast. "We need smoke and lift," Doc said. "Radio is toast." Cole peeked. The tower flashed again. Another RPG team moved into the window. He had seconds. He pulled a smoke grenade from his vest and yanked the pin. Purple cloud boiled across the trail, thick and welcome. He threw a second toward the terraces to draw fire. It worked. Tracers stitched the smoke and cracked past. "Perez," Cole said, low and clear. "Suppress the tower." "On it." She rose into a half-kneel and emptied 3 short bursts. Glass burst from the window. The RPG clattered. A body fell back. Cole tapped Jax's shoulder. "Stay with me." Jax nodded, teeth chattering. Cole slid his hands under Jax's harness and hauled. Heavy. Dead weight heavy. He dragged him down the slope toward a notch in the terrace wall. Doc stayed with Kowalski, counting breaths under the noise. Perez shifted positions and kept the window dark. A voice cut the air from a speaker somewhere in the village. Calm. Cold. It carried across the valley. The words were in the local dialect, but the meaning was simple. Drop your weapons. Walk away. Leave the wounded. The voice did not shout. It did not hurry. It sounded sure. Cole knew that voice. They had heard recordings in briefings. The local commander. Code name Farouk. Patient. precise. He mined roads and spared no one who helped coalition forces. He liked to talk before he closed a trap. A second mortar thumped. It landed closer. The berm shook like a kick drum. Dust filled his mouth. Cole shoved Jax under the notch and crawled back for Kowalski. Perez leaned over him, firing at the tower. Doc pressed gauze and whispered the same words again and again. Stay with me. Stay with me. Cole slung Kowalski across his shoulders in a fireman's carry and stood. His legs burned. He stumbled, then found his balance. He took 2 steps, and the hillside erupted on his right. A hidden firing slit opened in a stone wall. An RPK sprayed the trail at waist height. The rounds chopped the air where his ribs had been a heartbeat earlier. He dropped, rolled into the terrace cut, and pulled Kowalski in behind him. The machine gun kept chewing. Pebbles rained on their helmets. The smoke thinned. He saw the tower window clear for a breath. A man in black stepped into the light with a radio and raised a hand. The gunfire stopped. The valley went quiet except for the tick of falling gravel and the ringing inside Cole's skull. Then a child's voice called from the village yard. Small. Scared. Mama. A second voice hissed to be silent. Civilian movement, right in the line of fire. Cole's gut tightened. Farouk knew they would hesitate. He would use it to shift positions and finish them. Cole raised his rifle, then froze. He saw the child's hair through a split door. He could not shoot. He needed another plan. A third mortar thumped. Closer. Too close. The round arced in slow and neat. It would land on the notch and bury them all. Cole stared at the incoming round and made his choice. Cole moved before thought. He shoved Doc and Perez into the notch, then threw his last smoke straight up to bloom over them. He dropped on top of Kowalski and pulled him tight. The mortar hit a terrace wall above and to the right. The blast lifted dirt like a curtain and slammed it down. The notch filled with dust and pebbles. The world went white and loud. For a breath there was no air. He turned his head and found Perez first. She blinked hard, then gave a thumbs up. Doc coughed and kept a hand on Jax's neck. Pulse. Jax's lips were gray. Still here, Doc said. His voice was shredded. Cole checked Kowalski's chest. Shallow. Slow. He felt the weight of the pack. He felt the weight of time. He looked out through thinning smoke. The tower watched them like an eye. The broken window had new shadows in it. The RPK slit stayed dark patient. The voice on the loudspeaker returned, smooth as glass. Sergeant Hart, it said. You know what will happen. Put weapons down. Walk to the courtyard. Leave the wounded. You will live. Perez frowned. He knows your name. Cole did not answer. He looked at Jax. He looked at the small door where the child had called Mama. He had to move the fight. He had to take the tower or they would be buried in place. Our comms are jammed, Perez said. No traffic. Not even a whisper. Cole rolled a thought in his head. Farouk liked clean traps. He liked to cut radios and shape the field. A jammer would be nearby, likely inside the tower to feed power and keep it guarded. Kill the jammer and they could call lift. Kill the spotter and the mortars would blind. Cole touched Perez's shoulder. We take the tower. 2 up. Doc, you hold here. Keep Jax and Kowalski breathing. If you hear me on local, you move on my mark. Doc nodded once. I need blood and time. He looked straight at Cole. Buy me both. Cole stripped a spare mag from Kowalski's pouch and gave it to Perez. She took it with steady hands. He passed Jax's canteen and set it against his lips. Jax swallowed a little and coughed. Home, Jax managed. Tell me about home. Later, Cole said. He meant it. He stood and wiped grit from his eyes. They slipped into the terrace, cut and hugged the wall. The smoke drifted and thinned. The sun burned high and hard and threw knives of light off broken glass. A goat bell clinked somewhere out of sight. They moved low across a patch of scrub, then ducked through a knocked-out doorway. Inside, the house felt cool and wet. Mud bricks. A rug still on the floor. A pot on a cold stove. A family had lived here last week or last year. Perez stopped at a corner and held up a fist. Cole leaned past her and saw a wire along the floor, thin as hair. Tripwire. He cut it and moved on. They climbed a narrow stair. Each step shifted under weight. Cole kept his rifle tight to his shoulder. Perez covered his back and kept count with her breath. At the landing he paused. He could hear a fan somewhere above, a soft constant hum. He looked up through a hole in the ceiling and saw a cable run along a beam. It snaked toward the tower. Jammer, Perez breathed. They crossed a short bridge between houses, just 2 planks across a gap. The gap fell 3 stories to a dry well choked with trash. On the far side, a door stood ajar. Radio static bled from inside like a hiss. Cole nodded and pushed through. The room was small and sharp with warm metal smell. A car battery sat on a crate. A tangle of wires fed a black box with fins. A field jammer. Beside it lay a handheld radio with a long whip antenna. A man in a dirty scarf turned in surprise, mouth open. He reached for the radio. Perez shot first. 2 rounds. The man folded and went down without a word. Cole crossed the room and pulled the battery cable. The fan died. The hiss faded. He keyed his throat mic. Viper 1, this is Bravo 2. Broken arrow. Troops in contact. Coordinates to follow. The net crackled. Then an answer came, faint but real. Bravo 2, Viper. Read you weak. Say again. Relief hit like a second wind. He gave the grid fast. He tagged the tower and the terraces and the trail. He requested gunship on station. He asked for medevac. He kept it short and clean. Viper repeated back and said help was inbound. Gunfire kicked outside, sudden and close. Perez leaned out the window and snapped a burst. She ducked back with a hiss. 2 fighters moving from the minaret. Close. And the child is still in the yard. The loudspeaker voice returned, softer now, almost friendly. You can call your birds, Sergeant. They will take time. You do not have time. I am in the tower. I am looking at the boy. If you shoot at me, he dies first. Cole felt the old tightness in his chest. He thought of a letter in his pocket that he never mailed. He had written about his sister's baby. He had promised to visit after this tour. He pushed that away and looked at Perez. We end this, he said. They moved along a roof line toward the tower. The rooftops stepped up like stairs. The tower rose from the center of a courtyard with a dry fountain. The split door stood open. The child's hair flashed in the shade, quick and small. A woman held him back with both arms and watched the rooftops with wide eyes. She saw Cole and shook her head. Her lips formed one word. Trap. Cole scanned the courtyard and saw it. A wire ran from the fountain to a bundle under a broken bench. Pressure plates lay in the dust like dead leaves. He mapped a path in his head. Follow my feet, he said. Do not guess. They dropped to the next roof and slid to the edge. Cole swung down to a windowsill. He found a grip, then dropped into a room that smelled of gun oil and sweat. Perez followed. They entered a hall that led straight to the tower base. A phone buzzed on the floor. An old flip. The screen lit with a number he did not know. It rang again. He picked it up and lifted it to his ear. Sergeant Hart, Farouk said, close and calm. Choose. Your men or the boy. If you take another step, I push a button and both die. If you put down your weapon, I will let the boy walk. Perez's eyes flicked to his. She had her rifle up. She had a clear angle on the tower door from a slit in the wall. Cole raised his free hand to signal wait. The phone hissed. Then he heard Doc on local, urgent and thin. Cole, Jax is crashing. I need that bird now. I cannot hold him. Cole stepped forward. A faint click sounded under his boot. The click under Cole's boot was a small sound. It felt like a verdict. The floor shifted a fraction. Farouk smiled through the phone. His voice was patient, like a man who had all the time in the world. Decide, Sergeant, he said. Now. Cole looked at the child, at the woman who held him like she could break. He looked at Jax, wet with sweat on the rug below. He thought of a letter in his jacket, the one with the stamp he never used. He thought of his sister, who had texted him a joke that morning and did not know what lay ahead. Doc's voice cut in, raw. Cole, He is slipping. I need help now. If you wait, Jax dies. Perez's hand tightened on her rifle. Her jaw worked. She wanted to shoot the phone. She had told him before that she would jump without asking. She had not. Not yet. Cole dropped to one knee. He could see the pressure plates now. Thin metal tabs under dust. Farouk had made the courtyard a theater of small, cruel devices. He had planned for hesitation. He had planned for fear. Cole spoke without theatrics. He kept his voice low. Where is your man with the child? There was a pause. Then Farouk said, on the balcony. He holds him with a pistol. He sees your motion. He feeds it to me through his ear. I am patient. Cole thought, then moved. He stepped back, slow. He kept his body low, and his eyes on Perez. He needed a path through the plates. He needed a way to get to the balcony without stepping on anything. Perez mouthed a grid. She had counted. She was calm in the way men call fire in. She pointed to 3 tiles. Cole nodded and picked his way like a man diffusing a bomb in his head. He moved in measured steps. He traced Perez's finger with his boot. The courtyard seemed to breathe around them. Halfway across, a voice cut the air from behind them. A child somewhere older than the boy, singing under his breath. The sound was wrong. It made Cole look up. A rope ladder fell from the tower. Men poured over the parapet. They landed with soft thuds. The courtyard filled with black cloth in motion. The woman tightened her grip on the boy and moved back. Farouk's men made a line between them and the gate. Cole saw the man on the balcony raise his pistol. He saw the flash of black cloth around his face. He saw a glint on the gun barrel. The boy shook and whimpered. Cole felt his stomach ice. Farouk spoke through the phone like a man reading the news. You move for him and they die. You put your weapon down and we will walk you to the gate. You will leave the wounded. You will leave the banner of your force in the dust. You will tell your commanders to stop their flights. We will leave. This is mercy. Cole looked at Perez. She had her finger tight on the trigger. She had a plan in her eyes. 100 small tans of training. He thought of Doc's hands. He thought of the blood that had already dried into patterns on the rug. He thought of Kowalski's breath. He swallowed. He made the choice that men like him make. He walked to the center of the courtyard. He set his rifle on the ground. He did not toss it. He laid it down like an offering. The men in black shifted. The balcony man stepped back. The woman released the boy and pushed him toward the gate. He ran like a small wind, barefoot and wild. The crowd around the gate pulled him in and the door slammed. Cole kept his hands visible. Perez stood with her rifle on the roof and did not move. Farouk's men moved in, slow and careful. They cuffed Cole and the others with practiced hands. They took their weapons and tied their boots. They read the letter in Cole's jacket. One of them laughed and crumpled it. Doc lifted his head and met Cole's eyes. He mouthed, "Keep breathing." Cole nodded. They walked through the gate under escort. The courtyard fell behind them like a scene in a movie. The woman and child were gone. Farouk's men led them through alleys where children peered from behind curtains. A rooster crowed somewhere. The city made small, everyday sounds, indifferent. Farouk waited at the tower base. He wore a coat that had seen better years. He looked Cole in the face and then at Jax, level on the stretcher. His eyes were sharp. He was not a man without conscience. He had one, and he used it like a tool. You did well with the boy, he said. You chose. You will live to tell the tale. That is rare. He stepped closer and unrolled a map. He traced fingers over lines and dots. He did not hide the shapes. He wanted Cole to read them. He wanted to change Cole's mind by showing him the world in pieces. You have 2 choices now, Farouk said. You can tell your commanders to pull their airplanes from these valleys. You can make peace where you are. Or you can watch more die. Cole felt a hand on his arm. Perez's grip was a promise. Doc's face was raw with pleading. He thought of duty as a hard and blunt thing. He thought of morality as a knife that sometimes cut the wrong way. A man in a black turban moved behind Farouk and placed a small radio in front of him. He pressed a button. The sound that came back was not a voice. It was a recording. It was Cole's voice, rough and ragged, saying, "We surrender. Me and my team. Do not come with aircraft." Cole had not said those words. He had not yet. The recording cut through like glass. Farouk smiled without joy. He lifted the radio into his good hand and clicked one last time. "Welcome to the next act, Sergeant Hart," he said. From above, a shadow crossed the alley. A heavy shape moved over the rooftops. The ground under Cole's boots hummed. The air tasted like oil. A missile whistle rose from the sky. The missile struck a rooftop 2 blocks away. The explosion ripped the air and painted the sky with dust and fire. The shockwave shoved everyone into the walls. Pebbles rained down sharp and fast. Screams rose from nearby alleys. Cole dropped to his knees and covered his head. His ears rang again, a constant needle. When he looked up, he saw Perez. She had used the blast like cover. She moved fast, shoulders low, cuffs still on her wrists. She drove her shoulder into the nearest guard. The man staggered. She grabbed his weapon and fired in one smooth line. 2 men dropped before the others could react. Doc pulled Jax flat, shielding him with his own body. Kowalski groaned, a thin sound. Cole twisted his wrists hard. The wire bit skin, but gave. He rolled, snatched the crumpled letter from the dirt, and shoved it in his pocket. Then he took the guard's knife and cut himself free. Farouk stood calm in the dust. His eyes followed the missile smoke trail. His radio crackled. He spoke one word. It sounded like a command. The guards shifted into practice formation. 2 on Cole, 2 on Perez, 1 holding Doc down. "Gunship," Perez yelled. "They're on station." Cole nodded, then pressed his radio. "Bravo 2. We're compromised. Need immediate fire on marked grid." He grabbed a flare from the fallen guard's vest. He cracked it and threw it into the street. Red smoke spilled. Farouk's voice was low, almost conversational. "You bring fire on this town, Sergeant. You burn children. That is your choice." Another missile streaked down. It slammed into a tower spire. The building folded like paper. A wave of dust swallowed the street. Cole coughed and pulled Perez and Doc into a doorway. They dragged the wounded with them. The guards broke formation, shouting. Farouk disappeared in the chaos. Cole caught only a glimpse of his coat vanishing through the smoke. "Go," Perez said. She pressed a rifle into Cole's hands. "I've got document." Cole sprinted through the collapsing alley. Fire licked at curtains. Windows bled glass. He searched for the coat, the man who had orchestrated all of it. Farouk was a ghost. Each turn opened into another ruined lane. The radio hissed. "Bravo 2, this is Viper. Danger close. Do you need extraction?" "Yes," Cole said. He ducked into a broken stairwell. 2 urgent casualties. "We're boxed in center grid. Smoke is marking." "Copy. Birds inbound. 2 minutes." 2 minutes in a kill box was a lifetime. Cole returned to the alley where Perez and Doc sheltered. Jax's breathing was shallow. Kowalski's skin had gone pale as chalk. Doc's hands were slick with blood. Perez reloaded, jaw tight. "They won't make 2 minutes unless we move," Doc said. Cole looked at the rooftops. He saw shadows gathering again. Fighters regrouping. Rifles bristling. The street was closing. He made his choice fast. Perez, cover left. Doc, keep them stable. I'll draw fire. Perez's eyes flared. "You'll never make it." "Don't need to. Just need to keep them looking at me." He ran before she could argue. Out of the alley, into the open street. Gunfire tracked him, chasing with sparks and dust. He fired back in short bursts, diving from wall to wall, shouting to make himself larger, louder. Above, rotors thundered. The sound filled the sky. A Black Hawk banked hard, its nose down. Door gunners lit the rooftops, stitching the stone with fire. Cole felt the wind wash over him, hot and violent. He dropped to one knee in the middle of the street. He raised his rifle high, firing into the smoke where Farouk had gone. He shouted into the chaos, voice raw. "Come face me, coward." A figure appeared on a rooftop. The coat. the scarf. Farouk stood tall in the smoke, rifle in hand. He looked down at Cole like a man already certain of the ending. Their eyes locked. Cole lifted his weapon. Farouk did the same. Both fired. The world narrowed to a single heartbeat. The shots cracked at the same instant. Cole's shoulder burned. He dropped behind a shattered cart. Farouk staggered back, hit high in the chest, but he did not fall. He steadied himself on the parapet and raised his rifle again. Above, the Black Hawk circled low. Its gunners swept the rooftops with tracer fire. Fighters scattered, dragged bodies, vanished into alleys. The city groaned with collapsing walls and burning beams. Perez's voice screamed over comms, raw. Cole, fall back. Bird is landing. He pushed up, pain screaming through his arm. He leveled his rifle. Farouk had vanished from sight. Only the smoke and the empty parapet remained. Cole knew the man was not gone. He had slipped away into the city, into another shadow. Cole ran back to the alley. Perez fired from cover, eyes blazing. Doc hunched over Jax and Kowalski, blood on his face. The Black Hawk flared and dropped, rotors cutting the smoke into a storm. Load them. Cole roared. He and Perez lifted Kowalski first, then Jax. The crew pulled them into the bay. Doc climbed after, still pressing gauze. Perez turned, covering the street. Cole grabbed her vest and dragged her in as the gunship banked away. The city shrank under them. Smoke curled from broken towers. The courtyard looked small now, almost peaceful from height. Cole sat in the door, bleeding, rifle across his knees. He watched as the figure in black stepped into the street far below, tiny against the ruins. Farouk raised his head and watched the bird lift. Even from this height, Cole swore he saw the man smile. Inside, Doc shook his head. Jax's chest no longer moved. Kowalski's hand had gone cold. Doc looked at Cole, eyes hollow. Perez wiped at her face with a shaking hand. The cabin stank of smoke and blood. Cole pressed the crumpled letter flat against his leg. He smoothed it with his good hand. He had meant to send it home. Now it was all he had left of promises. He looked at Perez, then at document. He tucked the letter into Jax's vest pocket. They'll get it, he said. His voice was gravel. He'll go home with it. The helicopter thundered through the mountains. The team sat silent, broken by absence. Cole felt the weight of command, of choice, of survival when others did not. He knew this was not the last fight. Farouk was still out there. The war was still a fire that would not die. He looked once more at the burning valley below. He let the silence sit heavy. He let it carve the memory into him. Perez leaned close, voice low, steady. You saved us. Cole shook his head. His eyes stayed on the smoke. Not all of us. The bird carried them into the horizon, away from the kill zone, into a war that had no end. The story closed with two truths in Cole's chest. That Brotherhood was the only shield a soldier ever had. And that sacrifice was never clean, never enough, but always the only choice. The war would go on. Farouk would rise again. But Cole knew one thing. He would be there until he had nothing left to give.